What's up, y'all? You do Jason Lip on some blogging about some circus stuff, the monkey in the circus, and what we're taught to believe. So, let me start like this. So, the first tangent of this is regarding public speaking. At an earlier age, I was taught, it was explained to me that next to actually the fear of dying, the statistics report that the number two fear that people have is public speaking, speaking in front of a crowd. So, sorry, some Facebook technicalities there. So that was explained to me. And then it was elaborated on that the reason why there's such a big fear about public speaking is that it's like a spiritual, people's fear, or it could, someone messing up during like a public speech is like a spiritual death of sorts. That it's like a death of self to be like on stage, like with all eyes on you, the crowd's watching you, and the fear that you mess up. Obviously, the fear is not if you do a great speech, that's like a wonderful thing, then you shine. The fear is that as you're doing like a public speech of some sort, that you mess up. And that's the demoralizing aspect of that like you're on display, like the crowd's watching you, all eyes on you, and then you mess up. And it was taught to me like a positive spin, that at the core of people are at the core really good people, and that no one wants to see another person do bad. So, elaborated on that was that, okay, well, if I was explaining like I got some anxiety, I'm nervous about to do this speech, and then that was retaught to me, that concept about that's understandable, that's the number two fear that people have, is public speaking. Just go with me on this. Maybe the stats are wrong about that, but this was what was explained to me. So that was explained that about that, so I would feel comfortable understanding, I'm probably not experiencing anything different than what another person would be going through. And then also, like, for encouragement, it was retaught to me that trust people, that at the core most people are good people, have good in them, and they don't get satisfaction out of seeing another person do bad, that they're rooting for you, they're cheering you on, they want you to do good. No one wants to see you mess up. That if that embarrassment for you would be uncomfortable, that's uncomfortable for people to witness. They want you to do good. That's more comfortable. So there was that. Okay. So the idea that I want to pull from that tangent is the idea of the goodness at the core of people, and that others don't get a satisfaction from seeing another person fall. Now, I get to a sticking point in this because that's what I was taught. But there's some obscurities for me in the reality of what I was taught to believe to what I actually believe is the actuality sometimes. For me in my world, it has felt like a struggle to shine, and that friction from wanting to do that to how I've interpreted certain experiences, where I feel like the friction is that maybe not everyone's cheering me on. Maybe just I happen to be the guy that maybe people get a satisfaction about watching me muck up, watching me fall. Maybe there's like some private satisfaction amongst the private minds or whatever, people that would supposedly be rooting for me, cheering me on, wanting me to do good, not getting any satisfaction from like the fall of me, okay? Or maybe embarrassment or my shame or whatever. And for whatever reason it is, I feel like throughout different periods of my life, there's been a friction and sticking point from what I was taught about that to what I've experienced is the reality. Now, a lot of times people make up stories in their head. But let's transition to Facebook. Facebook, if you will, is like yet another stage of life. So rather than you're in an actual physical auditorium and there's a stage and then there's the seats in the crowd and people watching you on stage for a public speech, basically every time you share something on your wall, it's like you're up on stage. Now some people are smart. They're smarter than me, okay? I admit it. They keep it simple. They'll put, simple pictures of something that doesn't offer too much of themselves, so they can't be too much of a death of self because they're not putting out as much on the line as like your own private thoughts. So go figure. The monkey in the circus had to turn Facebook, his Facebook, Jason Lipp's Facebook, into like a public diary. Okay, for me that was more meaningful. Not to say that I won't post a picture or a video that has not too much stock or meaning into it sometimes. And this is, I'm dating back years ago. I'm not even talking about my present circus act on Facebook. I'm talking years ago when I first entered the whole Facebook platform, before I took a hiatus from it. The hiatus of my disappointment with it and the fact that I didn't get satisfaction out of it, that experience, and I was like, I got to put this aside until I'm rejuvenated and then I could come back to it. Okay. So there was Jason Lipp on Facebook freaking whatever, 8-10 years ago. And I just wasn't satisfied with the experience for a variety of reasons. I won't tangent too much into that. But the point is, it's like kind of like yet another public speaking platform. You put a piece of yourself out there and whoever your friends on your list can view you. And sometimes if you're not too careful with the settings or how private you make your Facebook wall, even strangers can view you. It's not just your friends. It can actually be a public thing. So speaking of public speaking, it's like a public stage, if you will. All right. And only difference is instead of the audience with seats in the crowd, it's your friends on a list or whoever can view you from, through online media by going to your Facebook account or whatever. Now, my experience is similar than what I stated. I don't necessarily feel, not that there's not the goodness or inner core goodness that I was taught by my family, my parents, about people in that experience moments like this. I'm not necessarily suggesting that. I'm suggesting what, in terms of me, in regards to me, it almost I could make up the story in my mind that there's some like private satisfaction, but rather than cheering me on, rooting for me, amongst the people that know me, whatever those relationships were, whatever those experiences were, that it now transitions into the virtual reality. So if something was not satisfying for either parties, myself or those people, like in real life, it's kind of transcended or transitioned into Facebook, where like the same unsatisfying interactions or relationships that I've had in my regular life is now playing out just in a different dynamic. It's now on virtual, reality or social media, the online experience. So then I had the thought that it's a Facebook wall, okay? So basically, what I'm experiencing is like, okay, so you're on stage, you're doing a public speak of sorts, and you want to hope that the crowd's on your side so that it's satisfying and that they're not getting a satisfaction out of seeing you mess up on stage. Back to what I was taught at an earlier age. And so I go through the motions, and I'm stronger than letting it be a death of self at this point. Had I messed up in some type of public speech in a classroom years ago, I might have experienced that death of self. That is the reason why it's the number two fear of people to do public speaking. So I've gone through that. I've had anxiety attacks. I've had panic attacks. Like, it's been intense. Nowadays, I'm pretty comfortable with myself, so I speak what I've turned into, I guess, my public diary, and that could be my first mistake, is that there's a time and place for everything, and if you're in Rome, do as the Romans do. So maybe if the majority of people are using Facebook is a less confrontational, less intense type of a platform. They keep it light, they keep it simple, not all the heavy stuff, because after all, not everyone on your friends list is like a close, tight friend. So if even your own close, tight friends can't deal with such intensity and personal self-disclosures half the time, then how could you expect people that are strangers to be able to rock with that and digest that? So, like, I get that. And I had this thought this morning that it's ironic Facebook is called a Facebook wall because post after post, this crickets scenario or response where it feels like, the expression, you're talking to a wall, like you're doing a lot of talking, but it's like no one's listening. And here it is, it's a Facebook wall. And I figured out that whether it's my Facebook wall, their Facebook wall, the walls they put up to my Facebook walls, the walls they put up to me, okay, any way you slice it and dice it, I'm talking to a wall. So I thought to myself, well, there's your answer. Like, maybe there's some profound hint there. The fact that it's a Facebook wall, you're talking to a wall, and it goes back to the Einstein's stuff. Like, the definition of insanity is trying the same thing twice and expecting different results. So I learned my lesson with Facebook years ago, and then took a long ass hiatus, and then came back and did the same thing. And like, I got to ask myself, Jay, is it working for you? So I don't know why I continue to do the insanity. I'm like opposing the nature of things at this point to, like, am I a glutton for punishment? But then I also say to myself, like, stand up to that. Like, it's kind of wrong that other people have different experiences in their life, and they have a different social media experience, and then this is my social media experience, and why do I have to endure that and absorb that? So then I had kind of a comical twist. I actually had a good laugh about this before. I asked myself, like, if I was up almost like what I'm asking for, like, I got a question, first of all, is that the reality? That some are actually getting a private satisfaction from seeing, like, the spiritual death of me, like, make a clown of myself? Is that satisfying? Because how come more people don't step in? Like, if I'm starting to say some legit, like, cool, kind of wise thing, show I'm growing up, then if people are really friends, how come more people don't step in? Step on that room, step in the wall, and, root you on. Now, some people are doing what I would have hoped, and that restores my faith. But I have Facebook accounts, first of all, where I have 4,000 friends for, like, my music stuff. This is like a smaller thing, but be honest, this is more meaningful. Like, have a smaller group of people and make it more intimate. And that was my hope. So say I have whatever I have, like 300 something people, and really only 5 people are, like, interacting with me. It makes me start to question those relationships. And I begin to wonder, well, like, if I'm showing that I'm doing inventory on my life and trying to be a man and make positive changes, And they know I'm in a rut because of the quiet storm of kind of like the crickets. Like, because of the mess I was in, like, it's kind of like I'm alienated from the rest of everyone. And as I try to like make amends with that and work my way back into interactions and relationships and more livelihood with all that, why I'm more, I mean, listen, that this is where I want to make the next tangent. I mean, I'm not suggesting I need like fucking cheerleaders in the sense of like every fucking thing I do, I need people like cheering me on. And this is where I had a good laugh before, is I had a comical thought like, so what am I proposing that would be different than the experience I'm getting right now? I'm obviously not satisfied with something about this social media experience right now. It's irking me. It's not sitting with me well. It's uncomfortable as much as I become comfortable with myself. So then what is it? Am I suggesting that I'm like up on stage giving like a public speech and like I said something cool that, and someone's like, yo, that's good shit. And then I look down and they're either like kissing my ass or like literally sticking their tongue in my butthole. Like, that's good shit. I just wanted to taste it. Like, I gotta like be reasonable with it. Like, what exactly am I suggesting? Am I suggesting that I said something like so dope? They're like, yo, that's the hottest thing I ever heard. And the next thing I know, I turn out and I got some hot chick in the crowds doing reverse cowgirl on me, like while I'm on stage with everyone looking. Or I'm getting, oh, you liked what I just said? Cool, a little French kiss, maybe a little cheek action. Give me a hickey. I mean, it's like, you know, like what am I proposing that would be different? Because like the extreme is like I'm suggesting, like as I rise to the occasion, like everyone else in the world is trying to fight their battles and rise to the occasion. Somehow I deserve like special treatment, Mr. Special Guy, that I should get like reverse cowgirl, or like some hot chick is like literally licking my butthole because she liked that I said, she thought I had good shit to say, you know? So I think of it kind of in the ridiculous context of thing, and it puts perspective on me. So I'm trying to be reasonable as I move through this, but at the same time, I question like if you if I'm doing all this waking up, like how is anyone not waking up? Like the people that have qualms with me or gripes or whatever, with just like the status of me, like just how I am. But you're still on my friends list. So like ask yourself, you're just here for the circus act? Like, because it's interesting to watch the monkey in the circus and how's he going to act a fool next? Or like you're really my friend, like rooting me on for like the best of me? Like, or do you get some private satisfaction, if not amongst your group of friends and people that are also pointing that ha-ha finger, like, look at the fool, look at the clown? Are you getting private satisfaction in your own mind? Like, yeah, he was an arrogant son of a bitch back in the day. Good for him that he's experiencing this, like, death of self and, like, all this. Listen, I'll make the t-shirt. I said it on an earlier post. I will make the t-shirt. Trust me. I dislike you more than you dislike me. And on the back, but all I really ever wanted to do was love you. I mean, it says it in a nutshell. There's the balance on the back of what I really came with, my true intentions. But at the end of the day, like, you know, a man gets beat down and like served shit on like a silver platter, like long enough, he's going to realize the silver platter doesn't mean anything. You're still eating shit. And I really just don't want to eat it too much longer. So, like, I'm going to run the motion. I'm going to do the inventory. Well, I'm doing the inventory. I'm going to try to rise to the occasion, be a better self, more positive, less negative. But at the end of the day, I kind of saw things for how they were years ago. And part of me says it's insanity to expect anything different from the same people. I think I need to, like, move out west of something and get out of Oviedo. That a certain, you know, point in time, if you've shit on your backyard or your lawn enough, like, how much can you mow? Oddly, there's a guy mowing the lawn out there. How much can you mow the lawn where your landscape looks decent? Like, I'm a shattered man at this point. I've experienced the humility, like, not, I mean, yes, in the sense of being humiliated, but the humility as far as like being humbled by life. Like, this is my time to rise and be bold again, take bold steps. And when I'm finally strong again, then it's time to be humble again. But when you're weak, that's the time when you need to be the strongest. And I need people that want that for me too. I can't have people in my life that are in the background and then just by my intuitive self, I just have this hunch that based on and this is my bad for judging them and keeping lasting impressions of them when I want them to make new impressions of me, but just based on those experiences and seeing those experiences for what they are, how those people really are, unfortunately, I have this funny feeling that there are people that are not really rooting for the success of J-Lip. The silence says a lot. Sometimes what you don't say says as much as if you said it. There's a lot in what people don't say, and I feel like there's not as many people cheering me on as I would hope. And like the guy on stage that's so fucking afraid and mortified he's going to mess up when he gives that public speech. And that feeling of knowing the crowd is there rooting for him, that gets him through the speech, and he does well. He succeeds, he thrives. Who doesn't need that? Like, just in the stage of life. And not just the stage of that public speech, but just the stage you're on as you're walking through life. How would that not be nourishing? That would be nourishing. And so, look, I've done my part. I've made it clear as fucking day. I'm reaching out, trying to make myself accessible. So, y'all got a responsibility and own your part too. But peace and love, J-Lip.